It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside.
Oh, it's one of those podcasts.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Inside Track with me, Luca Allam. I'm joined by the Lebanese Van Wilder. Because you love conceptualization, you love being different, you love doing something that not many people can do or can think of.
Or want to do, right?
Yeah.
It's mostly the want.
But you built your career off the back of that, right?
It's too easy to follow the trend.
Yeah.
In my case, it's a huge risk.
Where is Stereo Arcade? Bring it back, please. Man, I spent a lot of money on Stereo Arcade.
I know, thank you so much.
A lot.
You paid for a lot of my lifestyles. Creating your own concept requires a tremendous amount of guts and trust and self-belief, if you will. Most people are not willing to do that. It's just the damn people. You can't force people to create that culture.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Inside Track with me, Luca Allam. I'm joined by a guy who's built a career on maximizing his strengths, doing quite a lot, but at the same time doing quite little, and I'm actually going to call him the Lebanese Van Wilder.
Hi, my name is Hamadeh. I'm the founder of Big Mouth Concepts. The reason I got into business or running my own business is because I had one objective, which was to own my own time.
Hamadeh is also the founder of Big Mouth Concepts. Welcome to the show, Samad.
Thanks for having me. That was actually a much better intro than I expected.
Was that spot on?
Yeah, because we were cracking up and making jokes right before this.
Have you actually watched Van Wilder?
I was in Van Wilder.
You are Van Wilder?
Yeah, no, of course I've watched Van Wilder.
Yeah.
In fact, when my friends used to watch Van Wilder in college or after college, they'd call me and be like, hey, they made a movie about you. I'm like, yes, I've seen it. Ryan Reynolds, the bit with the hot dogs or the donuts. Yes, I've seen it.
So the reason is because I've done a bit of research on you.
Okay. That always scares me when someone says that.
It does. But it's interesting stuff, right? So I'll tell you what I know, and you'll be like, Luca, that's actually not accurate. It is accurate, in which case I'll fire my research manager. It's fine. So you grew up in Saudi,
That's
right? You then went to Lebanon in 1994. Then you moved to Dubai in 2004.
Correct.
Right, but between 1994 and 2004, you were hanging out in Beirut, right? And you're going to school, you're going to university, and you didn't really know what you were going to be doing. And you kind of like potted your way through life, and you didn't read any books.
I was a lit major and I didn't read books.
You did English literature. You weren't reading any books. You were getting girls to take notes for you.
Wow,
right?
I don't know where you found that information.
I spoke to them, by the way. There's like a whole lineup of them, right? So they were like, he didn't actually do any work, but he basically lived off our notes. But yet somehow this guy has ended up being a very, very successful, and you hate the word entrepreneur, but you've become an amazing entrepreneur in the last sort of 10 years or so being in Dubai, I guess.
Yeah, I mean...
Is that accurate?
Look, the notes part was accurate. I was the only guy in class most of the time, and they were really nice to me. So that's why I say I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an opportunist.
Yeah.
And in a positive way, though. I'm not a huge fan of the word entrepreneur. I feel like it's kind of it means too many things that are too magical and too in fairyland.
Also, do you associate the word entrepreneur with a certain type of profile, which you don't feel you fit and belong into that profile?
I do, because I think real entrepreneurs are a lot more focused than I am, and I think a lot more strategic than I am. I'm definitely not that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, college was interesting because I changed 3 majors in college.
You did a bit of drama as well, didn't you?
I used to do I used to love theater. So the only reason I love theater is it was a very easy, 3 credits. And look, again, it's it's not that I didn't like reading. I love reading, but I like reading the stuff that I want to read. I'm not a big fan of educational canons, especially when you study literature and language. You're kind of forced down this rabbit hole that some old British guy 55 years ago decided this was literature. Yeah. Anything is literature. Comic books can be literature. Guy's Facebook post can be literature 20 years from now if it was significant in any way. So I didn't feel like that educational system really had anything to offer me that I couldn't go and just find myself, which I know is really silly to say now. I mean, I'm 43. But this was me in my, like, I was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, no one knows really, unless you're going to become
I'm 43 and I don't know. Yeah. Do you know what you're doing?
I mean, I'm still.
Honestly,
look what I'm doing.
You just started a podcast.
I'm still figuring this stuff
like
out.
10 years after everybody else.
Yeah. A bit late to the party.
This is, but I mean, it's a nice setup. It's actually nicer than pretty much all the podcasts I've done.
Well,
but don't
thank
quote
you
me,
very much.
Although this is,
I will quote you.
You will. I mean, you have me saying it.
Well,
so.
look, what I know about you more than anything else is you love conceptualization, you love being different, you love doing something that not many people can do or can think of.
Or want to do, right?
Yeah.
It's mostly the want.
But you built your career off the back of that, right?
Yeah.
So the little Van Wilder guy who wasn't taking, any notes, who was reading all these girls' notes, ended up coming up with
my wife's gonna love this part.
Yeah. You ended up coming up with, and we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah.
You coming up with concepts that, Stereo Arcade was a game changer, but even before that, Republique was phenomenal. I remember going to these places and going, where has this been all my life?
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. You did something that to this day, me and my wife still talk about. Even my friends were like, where is Stereo Arcade? Bring it back, please. Because it was part of a life, a part in my life where I was like, this is one of the happiest moments. Every Thursday night, Stereo Arcade, it was the best place to be.
Yeah, it was. Look, and again, I couldn't have done any of that if I didn't have, people and friends like you and like Rasha and like that whole crew that actually, I mean, I always say this, like you can open doors to anything, but if people don't come in, it's not relevant.
Man, I spent a lot of money in Stereo.
I know, thank you so much.
A lot.
You paid for a lot of my lifestyle stuff.
And I was like, anyone who'd come over from the UK or whatever, I'm like, mate, you got to check out Stereo Arcade. You got to check us out. You've got 80s night and you've got 90s night. Sometimes they kind of play 90s in the 80s. And
it
was a mashup.
It was like,
I drank so much at the time. I was like, I don't even know what night it is, but I'm loving the music regardless.
Exactly. I mean, look, again, with Nightlife specifically, I think it's too easy to follow the trend.
Yeah.
But I always say this, like if you're following the trend, you're kind of becoming the trend. And what happens with trends?
Yeah.
So in my case, it was a huge risk to do, even Republic back in the day, it was a huge risk to do, just a different kind of musical and customer experience direction because everybody else was doing the same exact thing. Yeah. And
look, there's a lot I want to talk to you about, right? Yeah. I want to talk to you about what it means to be a successful entrepreneur in this day and age. I want to talk to you a little bit about the F&B scene, the clubbing scene, and what that looks like in the future. And I also want to talk to you about your own future and your personal life. If that's okay.
Sure.
But let's start with the mug. What's going on with the mug?
So Food Shake gave me that mug. I didn't know who he was. He was this anonymous food reviewer that used to write, I still think, in my very humble opinion, again, just half a master's in literature, the best reviews you'll ever read. He was hilarious. He quotes his wife, the Serb, a lot of times. And the reason this mug is relevant is very kind of special to me. I mean, I've had it for the last almost 10 years now, which is very weird because I don't keep anything that long.
It's going to end up going on my mantelpiece with all my guests' mug up there.
Oh, perfect. Great. Yeah. Should have thought about that before. Anyway, so when he sent that to me, again, I had no idea who he was. My only interaction with him was like commenting on his Facebook reviews and stuff. Yeah. And then it was the first time I felt like there was an F&B community in Dubai, if that makes any sense. So this was around the Stereo Arcade days. We had just opened Kouklé because I co-founded Kouklé as well here with Ziad, and then I sold out of that later. But it was around those days, and a lot of the homegrown concepts were popping up because Dubai went from the only franchises we had were fast food to no big international franchise. So a lot of like kind of homegrown basic concepts, which were amazing, like More Cafe back in the day in those places, and Ziyara and all those places, to suddenly like this influx of mega brands in the last 10 years, or the last 7-8 years. But before that, I felt like you had the rise of homegrown. I felt like people were like, kind of like, you know what, we're going to give this a shot. Yeah. And going big with homegrown. I mean, Stereo Arcade was a big, it's an 8,000 square foot homegrown club bar arcade. Before that, all you really had that were of that magnitude were places like Trilogy, which was run by Jumeirah.
I remember Trilogy.
Trilogy was awesome.
R&B on the top floor, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember what was on the first or the second. And there was a side room. There was like a little side room.
So those were, but I mean, those were, yes, homegrown, but they were hotel-led concepts. I'm not knocking hotels. I think hotels did an okay job for what they're capable of and with all the red tape, right? But now it's that era, the Food Shake era, when he first popped up. I was just opening a Kibadori. Stereo Arcade actually was about to close back in that point. It felt like there was an F&B community coming up in Dubai, and all these like, different thinkers saying, you know what, franchises are cool, but maybe we'll give it a shot. That's how the Trisans were born. eventually the Orfali brothers of the world, Reef Uthman, all these guys, I mean, all these amazing chefs that created their own concept. You know, again, I'm not saying anything bad about people to bring franchises in. I've done it twice, so there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm saying creating your own concept requires a tremendous amount of guts and trust and self-belief, if you will. Most people are not willing to do that.
Yeah.
So the ones that did never really had a community in Dubai. When this guy came along, I'm not saying he launched it, but in a way, Dan is his name now. I mean, he's already outed himself, so I can use his name. He sent these mugs to a lot of people in the industry, and whenever you saw that pop up, I'm like, okay, this person's like my people. So it was the first time I felt like there was a community, which is amazing, and that's pretty much what it was all about for me.
Right, that's one of the best stories I've heard about a mug, by the way.
And so I drink my protein shakes out of it. I don't even drink coffee. Coffee.
But you know you're going to leave it here, so
it's fine. I'll come here. You'll make me a protein shake every Monday and Wednesday. Yeah.
Safe word. Do you have a safe word for me? Typically on my show, I ask guests to come up with a safe word. If there's a question they don't want to answer,
I'll answer everything.
No, but come on, give me a safe word.
A safe word.
Yeah, any safe word.
I don't know, pillow.
Pillow?
Well, because I'm looking at a throat.
Classic. Yeah. Okay, so you moved to Dubai, 2004. You don't know what you're doing. Your brother takes a job, I think, with Air Arabia, right?
Correct. Amazing. That's why I moved here. So I wanted to. Amazing. So I got accepted into NYU to go do my master's. I was already halfway through my master's in Beirut, and I decided I don't want to do this anymore. And my dad says, move to Dubai. I'm like, I want to move to New York. He's like, move to Dubai. If you go to New York, you're never going to come back. You move to Dubai, it's going to be the next big thing. There's no doubt about it.
My dad was in Saudi. Do you regret that move?
Of course not. Okay. No, everything. I mean, this is it for me, right? So, but also one of the biggest reasons was my brother Bassem, who had just left Embry-Riddle in the U.S., the best flight school in the world, effectively, and moved here. So he was at Air Arabia, and I moved out, and I was blown away by the city. It's an amazing story. I mean, it's not an amazing story, but it's a very interesting story. I mean, I'm not some trust fund kid, right? But my dad obviously supported us a lot in the beginning. But I got a very high-paying job offer the first month I was here.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and I didn't take it to go work on a movie. Because I thought maybe I'll be a director one day. Because I like to write, so maybe, I realized I hated it. I mean, it was fun, but it's not for me. Like, again, too many rules.
Yeah.
And too many rules, too many restrictions.
Yeah, and then a bit later on, you take a job at a creative agency, right? With half the pay, pretty much.
Less than half, a third of the pay at BBDO.
Yeah.
And
how was that? How was your advertising experience?
So before I moved here, I was in Leo Burnett in Beirut for 3 months. They wanted me to move to Saudi, and I worked with probably one of the greatest men in advertising in the history of the Middle East, Malik Ghraib, who was effectively executive creative director for the group. And we worked on some stuff together, but he's like, listen, man, this isn't for you. Like, you're very creative, but you don't know how to work within like the confines of a brand.
Yeah.
So I tried my luck at client servicing at BBDO. I had a blast, but it wasn't what the agency wanted. In fact, in my interview with Pierre Azam, who's also a legend probably in the market, he's like, what would you say your biggest weakness is? And again, just me being, I was 23 maybe at the time, I said ballroom dancing, and he cracked up. And when I repeat that story to people, he's like, he should have thrown you out the window.
You're Van Wilder. I'm telling you, seriously.
Yeah. So I did that for 9 months, and I quit. Well, I quit after 6 months, but I had to spend another 3 or 4, waiting for them to find people to replace me. I just didn't like the whole taking notes thing.
Yeah. Then you launched comedy in Dubai?
No,
is that right?
So what I did was I went to the guys who owned the Dubai Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
A guy called Anthony Yunus,
okay.
Joe Gilbert Raja, and I said, set up a sister company for me, the corporate events division, because I saw there was a huge need in the market for corporate events. They were a bit more creative and not your typical cookie cutter kind of corporate events. And I mean, you know what advertising is like in marketing. I mean, you know how this market is like. Eventually, you're like, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I hope that's the case for most people. Just go venture out and do something else. So I set up a corporate events company, but we did very different events back in the day. This is 2006, 7, 8, 9. Those 4 years. Launched the comedy festival, the first big.
Yeah, that's right. There was a comedy.
Well, it was the first comedy festival in the Middle East ever. The comedy convention in 2009, and the reason we did it in 2009 is we were in the middle of a global recession. So what's the best thing to do when you're in the global recession? Try to make people laugh, right? So it was a huge success here. We brought huge comics out. People like Sebastian Maniscalco, who are now making $30 million a year touring. Whitney Cummings, who's had like a bunch of shows out, and she does incredible stuff on Netflix. Omid Jalili, who's still a very good friend. I mean, I'm still friends with all these guys.
I would love to get him on the show, by the way.
Yeah, the next time he's here.
Yeah,
he's amazing. He's so it was interesting, doing events, because it's one of the best feelings in the world where you put something together and you see people come in and like have a good time. Yeah. And
so
that's what got me into nightlife.
So what is that? Because I want to dig into that. Why does that make you feel so good? It's a hosting. You're effectively hosting.
You're not even hosting, right? You're behind the scenes, making sure things are rigged properly.
But a good host also makes sure that their guests are first and foremost.
Of course.
So what is it about that makes you feel so good?
I think even when I was a kid, like we'd go on school trips, I'd be the guy putting a mixtape together. Like I like to see people have fun or have a good time or maybe disconnect, maybe create a little movie scene in my head of what's going on. So I think that was my driver. So I'd get on stage and see people like losing it with laughter, or like at a concert, we brought so many acts out for the jazz festival. I'd see people like just losing their minds seeing these acts, and I'd think, I've been here a couple of years and I managed to get an artist out or a comedian out that somebody's been waiting to see for 10 years or never could have seen because they grew up in Dubai, right? I mean, so it's amazing. I think we take a lot of things for granted if you grew up in a country where you get live music all the time. But if you grew up in the GCC, I think Dubai had a few acts, Lebanon had a lot, but the rest of the GCC had nothing. I grew up in Saudi. They used to censor cassette. Like I'd get a Bobby Brown album and half the songs were off the album because they used to censor everything, right? Not the new Saudi. This is the old Saudi. So
they had Middle Beast launched a couple of years ago in Saudi.
Yeah, if that had happened
crazy.
back in my day, it's a totally different world right now. So, but I think for me it was more seeing people have fun made me happy. It made me feel like that's an achievement for me. It's not how much money they're going to spend, or it's not.
But you don't know why. You don't know why it makes you feel so good.
I don't really know why. I just feel like maybe that's kind of my little I don't know secret role in this whole equation. But it's like I never looked at like sales. Like I'm not like, what are the sales like now? Like I never asked that question. Yeah. Like even the busiest nights, the craziest parties, I'd get the reports the next day. Yeah. I wouldn't really care about seeing what we were like. I didn't care in my mind. If everyone's having fun, they're gonna come back. Business is good. That's all I care about.
So Stereo Arcade, I have to tell you, is the best nightclub I've ever been to. You
partied everywhere.
I partied in London, I partied in Ibiza, I partied in New York, partied in Beirut. Stereo Arcade is the best club I've ever been to. It was unbelievable because it captured something. I think, and I talked about this with some other guests on previous shows, timing is also everything.
100%.
Capturing a moment, capturing a mood. And if the concept matches that, you get fireworks. You become part of pop culture, right? I mean, you guys used to go there. Honestly, on the nights that you were there, how often did you? We never had fights. Everyone was having a good time. Good people. Yeah. Wasn't a weird crowd. You felt like you knew everybody there, right? You felt connected with people. Yeah. I mean, that's a big feeling. It was a community.
It was a community. I don't even know how that happened.
I would go on, we had a table.
Yeah, of course.
Pretty standard table. And I would go to the bathroom. And on the way, I'd be like, it would take me about an hour to get to the bathroom. Because I'm like, And then coming back, and they were like, well, Luca, where have you been? I'm like, I literally know everybody in this place.
Yeah, so that's what I think makes any place special, right? Yeah. I mean, it becomes like your night office, except people are drinking and having a good time, and there's music, and so that can't be the fault or a direct result, I think, of the people behind the concept. I think that's 100% the result of the people in the place, the customers, the people that are coming in night after night to have a good time. They create that culture. You can't force people to create that culture. Yeah. I don't believe there's a way to, kind of pigeonhole everything or say, this is how you have to react. There's no handbook, right, for nightlife. There's no handbook for restaurants.
It's tough. It's tough launching a nightclub business.
Of course.
I mean, what goes through your mind when you're putting the concept together?
Why am I doing this? That's the first thing that goes through my mind. Who's going to come to this place? Would I go to this place? It's not. So Stereo Arcade, I was sitting at my pool and listening to, I'm really into synthwave because I still love 80s music. And there's this huge movement now that's become incredibly sophisticated. People like the Midnight who sell out like 8,000 capacity stadiums. And these guys are making 80s style modern music. So it's synthwave and retrowave and cyberwave. I was listening to that sitting at my pool, had my laptop open, and I was looking at this rectangle. And I'm like, I'm a big gamer still. So if I'm up
Best
at
game? What's your favorite game?
Oh, so many. I don't
Console game or
console
PC?
For sure. PC. I was never a PC guy.
Okay. What console? Xbox or Sony?
So Nintendo back in the day. So all the Zeldas and Mario obviously.
Ocarina of Time. Great.
Yeah, game. I mean, I've played every Zelda game ever made on every platform. from, I've replayed, anyway. So that's a 2-hour conversation right there. I'm replaying Fallout 4 now because they remastered it after the series came out. And I'm like a nerd with a video game. Like you get a platinum trophy. So I was looking at my stats today, and there's a 0.1% of something like 4.5 million players got this trophy, and I'm like one of them. So when I say I'm a gamer, I mean this is like I could do this for a living I would if I could. But
so you saw a rectangle.
So I looked at this. I'm like, okay, I want to open a gaming thing, but how do I put gaming in nightlife? Then I'm like, of course, I go back to the scene in Tron, the new Tron. Oh, the old Tron's incredible, but the new Tron Legacy, which when I was working on the film festival, we actually premiered. So I saw it on like 8K, like this mega. It was a mind-blowing experience, and it was a journey play. Anyway, so I just literally put a box in the middle. I'm like, I'm going to put an arcade right here, and it's going to be free. And I flew out to Bristol to
Random.
So random.
Bristol's.
It's
have you ever been to Bristol before?
No, it was my first time ever in Bristol.
What did you think of Bristol?
I literally just trained it in from London, went to this place, got a cab back, and went back to London immediately. It was an interesting town.
My best mate lives in Bristol. I know it quite well. It's
Oh
crazy.
yeah. So I was there for literally 3 hours to see this like old mom and pop store that used to basically knock off arcade games in the 80s and 90s, and they kept getting sued until they just licensed all the games now.
Yeah.
That's where I bought the arcade machines from. So I just went to see these guys. I want to make sure it's legit, right? You can't just order things online anymore. I mean, you can, but not like, $100,000 worth of stuff.
Yeah.
So
so how much it cost? $100,000 worth of
150,000 dirhams worth of machine. Yeah, it was legit. I mean, and shipping, and it was a proper investment, right? So, I mean, my first bar cost me 50,000 dirhams to open. Republic cost like $100,000. So this was already like up there. Yeah. Anyway, so so I'm like, I'm gonna put an arcade here. Something I used to do in Republic really well was, the club downstairs and the live music upstairs. And the live music upstairs was with a guy called Marwan Hawa, who still does live music. He's an amazing musician still. Does Blue Bar, does a bunch of different places. Had his own clubs as well. So I'm gonna do live music. I want like a dirty, grungy rock bar. And then I'm going to build a club on the other side that's going to look like something straight out of Tron or like a fantasy 80s Blade Runner type scenario. But conventional and practical, not like...
So you're still at the pool at this point? You're still conceptualizing
Oh, this happened in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was done.
Are you having a drink at the same time?
Nothing. I was just in the sun. I'm so white, like the sun does that to me. UVs, So it took 20 minutes for me to crack the concept. Like, I'm not even exaggerating, trying to be like, that was it for me. And then, not the name yet, because I didn't know what to call it. I was thinking, should I call it Sam's Arcade? But I'm like, I don't want to put my name on something. It's so lame. Then I was, I forgot what I was playing. It was a video game. I forgot which one now. But there was a stereo sound logo on a wall somewhere. I'm like, holy crap, stereos left and right channel. And there's an arcade in the middle, stereo arcade. Went online. Does anyone own it? No, hell yeah, I'm going to call it that.
Beautiful.
So that's how that happened. I called Republic because I was playing Knights of the Old Republic on Xbox. And I was talking to my friend in Beirut. I'm like, hold on. And I was looking at the Xbox cover. I'm like, Republic, Knights of the Old Republic. Holy crap, Republic. But I don't want to call it Republic, so it became Republique.
Yeah. It's very Lebanese. Republique.
Republic
just doesn't quite cut it.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I only called it Republique because I don't speak French at all, but because I wanted to trademark it and I wanted to own like the domains and stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy how many things get decided based on that these days. It's gotten worse and worse to name stuff now. So that's how Stereo Arcade came about, and it was 1.5 years after Republic closed, and I still feel like I had enough of a pull in the market to get people to want to come out to something this big. 'Cause it was it's 1,000-person capacity, which is not a joke for Dubai at any point in time. The mega clubs weren't even open yet, or the ones that were mostly indoors. They weren't even outdoors yet. So. Yeah, so that's
then it shut, right? And when it shut, and why did it shut? Was it a financial thing? Was it?
It was a financial thing. So It was incredibly successful. It's just market economics. So we were kind of at the peak of that era, if you will, the mid 2010s. We opened 2015. 16, 17, 18. So we were in for 4 years, and then look, it was. It was an interesting situation with Stereo Arcade. It was incredibly successful, financially speaking, but it was a very high cost to keep it going. So we had 7 nights a week of live music. We had a huge team. We had a kind of a difficult hotel GM who ran the hotel, incredibly difficult person who was not supportive, zero vision whatsoever kind of thing.
So when something like that closes, after being so successful, does it hurt your ego? Does it hurt your confidence?
No. Failure doesn't scare me, which is a problem, by the way, because it means you're willing to take risks that sometimes are really illogical. And I've done that sometimes, and I'm like, shouldn't have done it now, but it was too late. So I would say I think most people are scared of failure because of the financial repercussions. So that's a big thing. So I don't want to say everyone that doesn't want to fail is worried about their reputation. I mean, every successful person you've ever met has screwed up so many times. People don't talk about it enough, I think.
What's your biggest failure so far?
If I had to pick one, holy crap. I mean, I think my biggest failure was a mindset, not a specific thing. The mindset was, it will always be like this. So the delusion that something I'm doing that's working will always remain the same. And that was a failure for me, because that's ridiculously very far from the truth. So you could apply that to anything I've done or anything you've done. You could say, if everything was constant all the time, you'd be fine. But the reality is nothing is constant. I mean, you're always fighting. Even if people don't know you're fighting something, you're always fighting something. So I think that was my biggest failure in terms of business or even life at some point, is thinking that things will always be this way. And it's definitely not the truth.
And the best decision you've made so far is?
The best decision I've made so far, I'd say moving to Dubai is probably the best decision I've made. Although it's tough here sometimes, you think about things and you're like, I do miss like being in Europe and driving and, nature and whatever.
And when you go now to a nightclub, and look, I know you've launched Akibidori, very successful as well, but when you go to a nightclub specifically now, is your first instinct look around going, yeah, I wouldn't have done it like this. I would have changed this.
That's the unfortunate downside of, I mean, look, I think it's the same in any industry, right? If you're in advertising or marketing or social or engineering, you're always going to come in and say, yeah, I wouldn't have done it like this. Yeah. It's just a tick. So it made me, in the beginning at least, after Republic, I stopped going anywhere after Republic. Stereo Arcade was even more extreme, because even when I traveled, I'm like, what am I doing here? This place sucks. I'm the best club in New York City. This place sucks. I'm the best club in Beirut. Actually, Beirut's fun. Beirut's good.
We'll talk about Beirut.
We'll talk about Beirut, yeah. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. When you've gone to the same place so many times, you start comparing.
Yeah.
When you buy the same brand, you start buy another brand, you compare. Yeah. It's in our nature to compare. Yeah. I don't necessarily think I would have done things differently. I would have just not done them at all.
Got it.
Like, I'd rather not have done something than do it that way.
Right, it's time for us to dip into a bag of balls. How do you feel about that?
I try to avoid balls, but no, I'm kidding. No, I mean, yeah, so this is your bag of balls.
This is it, mate. This is it. So what I would love you to do is just take any ball out. There's a few in there. Read it out loud. Let's talk about it. Have a chat. It's all somehow linked to you, your life, or the industry that you're in. So hopefully you find it entertaining.
Are these golf balls?
These are golf balls.
Golf?
These are table tennis balls. These are a bit of everything.
Okay, Nightclubbing. Best days ahead or behind? Wow. Okay, so I'm going to put this here.
Yeah, put it here.
Nice and reflective. Nightclubbing the way we knew it, I think best days are behind for one simple reason. And this is going to be a bit weird. Instant gratification. So now...
What does that mean?
That means when you used to go to a club before, you'd wait for the build-up. You didn't care about taking your phone out to let everybody know that you were at this club. You just wanted to go there to be in the moment. Now you're living in a moment on your phone, unfortunately. So you want to go to a place, just capture the first 5 minutes and leave, because it doesn't matter if you stay or not. You just want to say that you were there. You're just checking in. We never have, I have so little footage of Stereo Arcade on my phone. So little, because people were just hands up in the air, dancing, singing, doing their thing. The only time you picked up your phone is if your friend was stuck at the door. In any club, by the way, like, yo, come get me in. Like, I'm sure this happened to you in London, right? Your friend's at the door, yeah, go, yeah, let my buddy in. So now everyone just wants to capture a moment and leave, rather than live in a moment, if that makes any sense.
So is it a generation thing, or is it more?
It's not a
also
generation.
How clubs are now gearing themselves up.
Everything is designed now to be social media friendly. Nobody cared about that before. That's why most clubs were dark. Well, the only lights you saw were like, spotlights. You didn't see like intricate designs and crazy stuff. We had one of the most beautiful DJ booths I've ever seen in my life in Stereo Arcade. You wouldn't have known unless the lights were on.
Yeah.
So
I did actually go into Stereo Arcade for a conference.
yeah, before when we first opened.
And I was like, this doesn't, I don't remember any of this.
Yeah, what is this place?
Yeah. Completely different venue. That's it's a great insight. You're basically saying that the way clubbing is now has had to change because of the impact of social and how people need to get that sort of 2-second scroll feed or that story to make them look super popular and great.
I mean, you're on your social. You see what do you see?
I'm not that active.
I know you're.
I think it's a generational thing. Honestly, I'm not that active. My wife is very active. She's a few years younger than me.
Yeah.
But I generally believe that you have a very strong point, and I think I've never thought of it like that, but I think you're absolutely right. When I go to clubs now, everything is very well lit. There are places where you can actually have a photo to stand right next to. It's like, well, yeah, what's actually happened to just going to listen to great music and hang out with your friends?
I mean, music
and forget
was a
about
driver.
life. Because for me, clubbing was a way of escapism. It was a way of letting go. It was a way of forgetting whatever stuff you've been through during that week, or celebrating what you've been during that week.
Exactly. Now it's to show your friends that you went and saw this DJ.
Yeah, love it.
And nobody even cares about the music anymore. I mean,
so what does the future of clubbing then look like? If the best days are behind, what does the future look like?
The future, I feel, will be a lot more private clubs, more like a bunch of friends saying, we're sick of the status quo. We're going to go do a standing order with this restaurant every Saturday night, and we're going to just book the whole place out. Or we're going to, set up a members club where we just get our close circle of 200-300 people, and that becomes a thing. I think that's going to happen. I think smaller venues, it's already happening. I mean, it's already starting to happen. Restaurants turning a bit loungy and clubby has already been happening. I mean, it started years ago and it died because nobody wanted to go to a restaurant and party.
I remember Caramel when I first came here.
That's
DRC.
A great example. Yeah,
it was actually pretty good food.
It was a lounge. It was amazing.
Pretty
food.
good
It was
food.
Incredible food.
And then the music was actually pretty good as well.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
DJ, it was Kirk Mannion.
Great name, Kirk.
Yeah, Kirk Mannion.
But speaking of great names, so you have a daughter at the moment, right?
Yes, Alessandra.
Alessandra.
Yes, very
Forza
traditional
Italia.
Lebanese name.
Forza Italia. How did you choose the name?
I wanted Zelda. Tala, my wife, is like, this is not happening.
Mate, that would have been fantastic.
It was. I mean, I tried to say it's Zelda Fitzgerald because I studied literature and F. Scott Fitzgerald was my guy.
Like one day, if I ever become, relatively famous, I'm gonna get Ryan Reynolds, right, to come in to meet you, and you're gonna both play a Van Wilder skit together. Because everything that I'm seeing Ryan Reynolds in that movie. So you just came up with the idea of Zelda, but obviously you settled with that.
I had no choice. I mean, she
yeah.
just,
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more kids coming?
We have 2 dogs, so they're like my kids.
Kids aren't dogs.
Yeah, I mean, Darwin, my dog is like literally
You
my
have
kid.
a dog called Darwin.
Yeah, so
Dare I ask the other dog's name?
Akira. She's a girl, but we gave her a boy's name, a Japanese boy's name. They're both Japanese. They're Shiba Inus. We got them from an orphanage, a dog orphanage in Okayama.
There's definitely a Japanese influence with you, but you've never been to Japan, or have you?
Never been to Japan.
Yeah.
I think because of Nintendo, I was always obsessed a little bit with Japan. I used to play something called JRPGs, which is Japanese RPGs, where you need to translate stuff, basically, which is the same thing to do.
Basically.
Afterwards, not so. Yeah,
I think time for another question on that note. Let's do another. Let's do another ball. Let's do another ball.
Let's do another ball. All right. F&B tough to crack or cracks appearing?
Yeah, so F&B, typically it's very tough to crack, right, to do it successfully.
Yeah.
And when I say is it crack starting to appear? Do you start to feel that actually the industry has changed and it's no longer as profitable, successful as it once was?
So look, I think there's a big misconception about F&B in the sense that, I mean, you go to a lot of restaurants. Like, what's your favorite restaurant right now in the city? Like, if you had to pick one place.
Put me on the spot there.
Yeah, well, you put me on the spot. No one's going to quote you and poison you somewhere else.
No. Look, I think, when I always think of a place that I would go to where I know I'm going to get good food and I'm going to enjoy the atmosphere, I go to Zuma. So Zuma is still, for me, sort of the standard, right? When I compare places when they launch, I'm like, is it better than Zuma? Is it not better than Zuma?
Fair enough.
So Zuma was the first thing that came to mind, so that's why I'd probably say Zuma.
And the reason F&B is what it is because of that answer you just gave. Because everyone says, if Zuma can do it, why can't I do it? And by the way, that actually worked for a lot of the local groups. They're like, why is Zuma the best in the market? So why can't we do it? And they did it. Some of them did it. Some of them didn't do it. Yeah. So I think people fantasize that owning a restaurant is movie glamour. It's not. It's probably one of the most complicated industries you can be in.
It is tough to crack, right?
It's very tough to crack. Yeah. Even when you crack it and you're doing incredibly well, you can still fall off a cliff, and that's happened to me. So I know what I'm talking about, right? And what's crazy about F&B is that, especially now, is that it's so easy to technically start, right? If you get the money, you can launch anything. I mean, you can't do that with an engineering firm or a hospital or a car rental company. With F&B, you could go get a food truck and launch a restaurant. You could do deliveries from your house. I mean, look at how many concepts launched from COVID. Look at how many supper clubs turned into full-on restaurants. I mean, Hawker Boy was a supper club. Tano's at 8 ended up with 11 Greens. Sultan, my partner, and Kinda, his wife, the three of us are partners, obviously. This all started from people saying, even if it's difficult or if it's easy, I'm still going to give it a shot. So, everyone's going to give something a shot at some point, I would hope. It could be a podcast, could be writing a book, could be photography, whatever it is. But with F&B, people see what others are doing, and they see a lot of awards going around. They see a lot of posts, and they see a lot of celebrities, and they see a lot of VIPs going to certain places. When I say VIPs, I mean like heads of state and crown princes. I don't mean like self-proclaimed VIPs, just to be clear. I mean actual VIPs. And they think that was easy. They don't know that. They look at 11 Green, which is a year old now. We opened it May last year, which has been, for all intents and purposes, a very successful launch.
For those that don't know, it's a burger joint.
It's the burger joint.
It's the burger joint.
The burger joint, okay? So, but before 11 Green happened, Sultan Shatila, the founder, was doing supper clubs for 5 years at his house, selling out supper clubs, one of the first to do it in the market. So whenever everyone's like, Sultan's first restaurant, they assume I had something to do with it because I'm a partner, I'm a co-founder, but I didn't. I was there just like a sounding board for him to figure out what he wanted to do. That's all I did, really. I mean, I don't know how to cook. I can't even boil an egg. I keep making that joke, but I swear it's true. I've tried for my own daughter. It doesn't work. I scrambled an egg, though. Not successfully, but I did. Anyway, so I'm like, dude, it took you 5 years to know what the hell you were doing. Most restaurants don't last 5 years. So you did this for 5 years before you decided to open a brick and mortar. Some people have never even done a week and they open a restaurant, which was me. I hadn't done anything food related when I opened a Kibadori. When I brought Kouklé over with Ziad had founded it in Beirut, so he'd been doing it for like 7 or 6 years before.
Yeah.
So nothing happens overnight. So this misconception that a place is successful because it launched and it was successful is ridiculous. Nothing just happens. It's years and years and years and years and years of hustle. Fixed desserts, Fixed Dessert Bar, the chocolate bar that's like all over the place now. Like everywhere you look, it's Fixed Desserts. Sarah, who launched it, I tried her chocolate bars at our friend's house almost 4 years ago. She still launched it, figuring it out. Yeah. It took her 3 years before people were like, she sells out in 3 minutes every day at 5 o'clock.
So what's your biggest learning so far from F&B? If you're going to tell anyone who's launching a business in it, what's your advice?
Wow. Look, I wouldn't call this advice, but if you're going to fail, do it very, very, very quickly. That's the only thing. So don't lock yourself into like 5-year leases. Make sure you have something in your lease with your landlord that lets you get out with a 3-month notice.
So fail fast and grow slow, effectively.
Yes. Fail very fast if you're going to fail. Yeah. Don't drag it on for 4 years or 3 years and sink money. If it's not working, it's fine.
Nice.
Shut it down.
Nice. Time for another ball.
How many balls are in here anyway?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see.
All right. Your go-to 80s song. Wow. Oh, so many of these.
First one that came to mind.
First one that came to mind.
Did you even mention
Everybody Wants to Rule the World, I would say. The reason for that is, I was listening to it on the way here. That's the reason that comes to mind. I'd say almost anything by Journey, Faithfully, such an incredible song. Obviously, Don't Stop Believing.
Do you know what's weird?
The old Journey.
Do you know what's weird? When I was growing up in the UK and I was 12 or 13 and I said I listened to Journey, I wouldn't have survived another week. So there was a stereotype applied to the type of music that you liked.
Well, of course.
Right. It's okay though now into 40s, you can say, yeah, I'm a massive Journey fan.
Yeah, or Bon Jovi.
Yeah, how is that? So it's crazy because it's the same people who once were saying, no.
Look, I mean, I always liked whatever I liked. I mean, I grew up listening to Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Genesis, like at the same time.
Gotta love a bit of Phil. I love a bit
Yeah,
of Phil.
I mean, how can you not love Phil Collins? Actually, one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to was Phil Collins here in Dubai. It was incredible.
Yeah. Favorite Phil Collins song or Genesis song?
Phil Collins, wow. Probably the only reason this song specifically is it reminds me of going to buy the cassette album. Well, the album was But Seriously with my dad in this like random supermarket in Riyadh and making him play the whole album on the way back to the house. And probably Another Day in Paradise. It's just there's something about that song. And then there's Take a Look at Me Now, obviously, which is because of the sax solo. So, I mean, saxophones, how incredible, right? Sax in the 80s. It was the sexiest thing. Yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Alphaville, big in Japan.
Oh, yeah, Alphaville. I mean,
And I
Forever
thought I was going to get you the Japanese thing from you. So,
Forever Young, the Alphaville song, if I had to say probably one of my favorite songs of all time, that would be in my top 3.
Okay.
Like, for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the song My Name is Luca?
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what that song is actually about?
Yeah, Suzanne Vega. I know, it's about domestic abuse.
Yeah, let's move on. Next point,
Yeah,
please.
so I'm like, is that what we're talking about? Is that where that's headed?
Abort. Next song.
Yeah. Who would play you in a movie? Yeah, Ryan Reynolds, like you just said, because it would be a Van Wilder movie. Plus, you need someone who doesn't take anything seriously.
Yeah, which you don't. You don't seem, or do you? Do you take things seriously?
I really genuinely do not.
Even in business, with your partners, the guys that you bring on board, and they're sitting down with you.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
Unfortunately not. I mean, I'm not an admin guy. I'm not a chairman of the board.
Yeah.
Even if I have to be, I don't want to be.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in being that. But speaking of Ryan Reynolds and F&B, you should watch Waiting. If you haven't. It's one of his old indie movies. It's incredible.
Okay. He's a good-looking boy, Ryan Reynolds, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, man crush, normal. Yeah.
He's a friend of the show. He always watches.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Unique but average or successful but ordinary?
So say that again.
Unique but average.
Okay, so would you love to have it? Yeah, would you rather have a unique concept that's kind of average, right, or be really successful but with a relatively ordinary concept?
So would you rather own?
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're trying to say. I always have this conversation. I always make a joke about it. But I'll use Barasti as an example. Barasti, probably financially speaking, the most constantly successful venue in the history of Dubai. Constantly speaking.
It's up there in the world as well. It's one of the most profitable places.
I mean, their numbers are extraordinary for a hotel-run operation with like 6 employees. So would I rather own a Barasti that's successful for 25 years or a stereo arcade that's successful for 4 years? The honest truth is I'd rather own a stereo arcade. That's the truth. Yes, longevity, it's great. You want to have a business that goes on for a long time, but boring for a long time or ordinary for a long time is I mean, for me, it's just not interesting.
Yeah.
I'd rather have like a really strong, passionate, incredible project for a very short period of time than to drag something on for 20 years just repeating. And
so
I'm not saying Barasti is boring, just to be clear. I'm just saying
yeah.
Generally concepts that run longer are kind of classics.
So that's the thing. If I meet you again in 10 years' time, I'm always going to, no matter how successful you are, whatever you go on to do, and I'm sure you will continue to be successful, you'll always be the stereo arcade guy.
Yeah, great.
And you're okay with that?
I love that.
Brilliant.
I'd rather be that guy than like, hey, you're the IBM guy.
Very nice.
Were you the CEO of this ad agency? No, I was not.
But that tells me a lot about who you are as a person. Where standing for something, having a legacy, being remembered for something, good and iconic, is more important than necessarily doing it to make money, to have a nice, successful, easy life.
Even when you have money, sometimes you don't have money.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in my late 20s, my events business was humongous. I used to make so much money, I didn't know what to do with it. And then in my 30s, I was broke. Not broke, but close. Like, I wasn't making money in my early 30s. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, just trying to figure things out. So the money is, if that's the end game, there's a lot of things you can do for more money than set up a business.
So do you have another stereo arcade concept style that you're cooking up? Something different, of course, but is it something that you're working on at the moment?
No, not really right now. Not really an F&B, something else in a totally different industry. I've done a lot of things in different industries I don't even talk about because they're just really not interesting. They make money, but they're just not interesting in any shape or form.
So what is interesting for you? What is it? What's the criteria if you'd be like, yeah, that really floats my boat?
If it buys me time and freedom. That's it.
That's a big concept for you. Again, knowing your time, the importance of your own time, yourself.
That's how I can do this at 10 a.m. in midweek, right?
I've actually got a question in there. I hope you pick it up next.
Yeah. How about you? You care about your time. That's why you're doing this.
Look, I've worked in a corporate life 20 years. I've done corporate, the old classic 9 to 5. And now...
And you were very successful at it too. Right? Yeah, you didn't just do it, you did it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I grew, I learned, I met great people. I learned about myself.
You raised people in the industry.
I raised people, I managed people, I grew people. And I got to a point that I was like, I need to know the other side. I need to understand what else I can do as a person. What are my limits? Because I kind of felt I reached my limit in the corporate world. So I'm trying the entrepreneurial side a little bit more now. Mm-hmm. I've obviously got a great job that keeps me busy. But I also have time in my downtime, as well as having 2 kids, to do things that I've always wanted to do. And the more I do it, the more I'm loving it.
And you think eventually you'll be like, I'm completely done with...
I don't know what the future looks like, but right now, I can tell you, I feel liberated. I feel fantastic. And this feeling, it is priceless. It is priceless.
That was so when I quit BBDO, and I handed in my resignation to Danny Kara, my one and only boss ever, who I bumped into. You know Danny, don't you?
Yeah.
He's the head of marketing now for MAF, right? So I didn't even know that until I bumped into him a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago. He was an amazing guy to work with. I mean, he was always like buying new cars. We'd go for test drives. We'd go downstairs to Scarlett's, have a beer at like noon. It was great. It was awesome.
And you left that.
Exactly. So the reason I left is when it became too serious. So that was the reason I left most of my relationships too in the past. It got too serious. Like, you need to write a report. I'm like, a report? I'm not writing a report. And I quit the next day. So when I left the agency, it was just like an insight. I saw these guys that had been there for 15 years. And, I thought, okay, even if I end up CEO of the group, look at how my brain worked. Like, I'll be CEO. Do I want to be CEO of a group? No. So what am I doing here? That was it. That was really it. It was a split second decision. Sitting with a client, one of the big bosses comes in, kills the creative we've been working on for like a week, and he was the head of the agency, or head of client servicing for the agency, and he wasn't happy with the work. And I thought, I don't want to be this guy.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be the client. I don't want to be anything to do with like at that position of power, making decisions and So that was it. But
the advice you gave to the people about the restaurant business was fail fast. What you decided was pull the plug quite early.
Yeah,
before
6
you spent
months.
3 or 4 years into
or 15 years.
Or 15 years, or 20 years.
Some people left after 15 years. They didn't even make it to MD or CEO.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the ultimate goal, but what the hell is the point of going through corporate and dealing with all of that if the reward isn't some level of freedom or shareholding? And Alan Khouri is a freaking legend. Yeah. And Nadeem, his son, was a very close friend of mine for many years. I mean, we're still in touch, but now, life everyone's in a different direction. But when I was leaving, I did my exit interviews and whatever, and I went into his office. I used to go to his office casually. Alan Khouri's office.
Scary, no?
No, I loved him. No, we were...
But, he was like, godfather of...
The thing is, I was so new to that, and I was so young and naive
I didn't... Just went straight over your head.
Yeah, well, for me, it was like, he just owns the agency. Like, I wasn't... I was around, my dad was the director of like one of the biggest companies in the history of Saudi Arabia, and he was my dad. So I used to meet people people like his underlings who were like VPs and presidents and whatever. And I was like, who are these dudes like coming to our pool like for a barbecue, like in their little short shorts? Like they were not, it was never intimidating for me. So I remember walking in and I used to go in there and see him randomly. I'd see him, I'd just pop my head in and say hello, like whatever. And then when I was leaving, he's like, why are you leaving? Where are you gonna go? You're gonna go to Leo Burnett? I'm like, no, I don't think this industry is for me. He's like, why? But you're good, and clients like you, and you're doing the work of 3 people, and whatever. And then I said, he's like, is it money? I said, would you ever make me a partner? He's like, how old are you? Good luck. Yeah. I asked him that. I swear this is the truth. This is the truth. Like, I actually asked him, would you ever make me a partner? He didn't know what to say to me. I don't think he expected anyone would ever ask him that question. People that have been there for 25 years probably haven't asked him that question.
No one.
So for some 24, 25-year-old to be like, the only reason I asked is like, I'm going to do this and invest a lot of my time into this agency. Am I going to reap rewards from it? And the answer is, of course, no.
Yeah. And knowing the value of your time. Next ball. Hopefully the next question will be linked to that.
Well, there's only...
How contextually perfect would that be if it's sort of linked to that?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah. We could do it another one and you could just cut it. Concept creation, magical or mechanical?
So you kind of half answered this. So when you come up with a concept, is it just you get inspired, it's a magical thing, or do you go through okay, what would work? Is it a mechanical process to come up with an idea?
Stereo Arcade was a very quick, like lightning moment. It was magic in my head. It was whatever. Republic was the same. I knew exactly what I wanted it to be.
And both were successful.
Akibadori was not. Akibadori was data. What does the market need? I wanted to launch the first real mid-market Japanese that was funky, casual, fun, and idiot-proof dining. I don't want someone to come to my restaurant and say, what does this mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Why is everything in Japanese? Like, everything is in English, everything is in Arabic, easy to pronounce, easy to understand, and everything on the menu sells. You don't have to have like a doctorate in literature, Japanese literature, to understand what it was. So that was more insights and research.
And 11
Green, I mean, my only involvement really with 11 Green was more on the strategy side, more like strategy in terms of like business development rather than the concept. So 11 is Sultan's favorite number, and he really believes in how that, you know, seeing that those digits make him feel. Green is a mix of two things. It's also a favorite color, which happens to be like our favorite color, but mostly again Sultan's, and green for sustainability, because what happens with 11 Green is we don't freeze anything, so we make everything fresh on the day. That's why we used to sell out really early, and people used to get really angry and aggressive at the door. I mean,
so what is a good burger for you?
I think simplicity.
Okay.
Simplicity and honesty, if that makes sense, right? So clean meat, good cheese, a bun, and some kind of sauce that's interesting and not like typical. That's it.
So what I do when people come over, 'cause I love making burgers.
Okay.
I do a good barbecue.
So you have to come to 11 Green, dude.
I will come to 11 Green. And it's actually quite close by as well.
Yeah, it's right here.
Which was great. I let my guests choose how they want to apply. So I just lay out everything. I'll ask them how they want the meat to be cooked.
But that's it.
I'll ask them want the cheese.
So they choose the
buns.
buns.
And then everything else, do it yourself. It's always good. You're never going to disappoint anyone when you allow.
That's amazing. That's actually, you're a good host.
Thank you very much.
Very impressive.
Right, next ball.
I'll leave you a review.
Let's see what's coming up next. I think we've got maybe one or maybe two.
There's
max.
two more. Okay. Know your audience or know your worth.
There we go. That was the question I wanted you to answer a couple of questions ago.
Yeah.
Because when I've read about your story, it's been always you have to value your time above everything else.
That's right.
So knowing your self-worth. How is that versus knowing your audience when you want to create a business? And what does that relationship look like? And the balance between looking after yourself and protecting yourself, but also making sure you deliver against your audience.
How are you choosing your guests on your podcast?
I look for people with a great story. I look for people that I can have a conversation with and that can open up. And I look for different viewpoints based on different industries that they're in. So what insights can I learn from the world of clubbing, from F&B, that world of, I know you hate the word, entrepreneurism within that particular sector, versus other guests who would give me an insight into other areas.
So what you're saying is it's about what's interesting to you.
It's what's interesting to me and also what the audience potentially can learn from.
But you never really know, right, that they'll be interested in the people that you're bringing on. So effectively, the first choice is yours.
Yes.
Right. So I'm not saying it's a selfish thing, but it is the reality, right?
You're right.
So
You're right.
The first barrier is, would I like to talk to this person? Because they could be really famous or really successful, but you're not interested in what they do, so you wouldn't have them. It's the same thing for me, right? So I would like to always be in control of. Sometimes I'm not. It's just the reality of life. Like my kid needs something, I'm on her time. My wife needs something. Rarely, by the way. I have an amazing wife when it comes to that stuff. You know, I'm on their time. But the rest of the time, I don't want to be on anybody else's time unless I genuinely want to be there.
So I'm very honored that you're here at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, listen.
On my time.
Yeah, no, but see, because obviously there's, you know, we've known each other for a long time, even though we weren't really ever close or we've had that many conversations that weren't at night. But that's, you know what, that's sometimes all you need to.
First time I've seen you in daylight.
Yeah. I don't see anybody in daytime, by the way, other than a couple of people here and there. But I think when it comes to, this obsession with my time, it's just because I saw what it's done to other people and other friends of mine, and I still see it with a lot of my friends, and I keep telling them, like, money's great, but if you can't do what you want with it because you don't have the time, what are you saving? Are you like a worker ant and you're worried about the winter? What is the point of all this? So I always say, I'd rather be broke and free than like rich and chained up to a corporate job or sitting at a desk and whatever. And listen, I'm not insulting or being like condescending about it. I'm just being honest about how I feel. There will always be way more successful people, I think, that are in corporate jobs because they end up hitting, reaching the top, and then sometimes they get thrown right off the top.
So how do you set the filter or the parameters for how you choose to spend your time?
Is this interesting for me?
That's it. That's the one question.
That's it. And interest doesn't have to be, a benefit. It's just, is it mentally interesting for me? Like, am I going to walk out of this meeting or this coffee or this podcast, in your case, feeling like I did something really cool in my time and really interesting? And if the answer is yes, I'll do it. If the answer is no, then I'm sorry, I won't. It's not, if I'm busy with something, fine, I'm busy with something. But sometimes I'll say no and I'll have nothing else going on.
Do you feel guilt when you say no to people?
No, never.
How do you train that? Or is it something that you just have? Because a lot of people, even with the Lebanese, right? They're like, Habibi, they can't say no. Lebanese people can't say no when they're being invited out to someone's to a bar or to Mshoof, we'll see how we'll go. They just can't say no. I'm not going to
way more than I say yes to everything. I mean,
so how do you do that?
Honestly, I don't overthink it.
Okay.
I just say no and I move on.
Yeah.
I've had, and I hope they're listening because this is just the truth and this is life sometimes. I've had people come up to me after conferences that I've never met before and say, we're looking for a mentor. I'll be like, if you're asking me, I'm the worst person for this because I'm not going to give you any of my time. You want to call me sometimes, I'll have a conversation with you. But if you're looking for somebody to call every day, first of all, that word really, really upsets me. But because I don't think anyone knows what the hell they're doing. I think we're just kind of figuring it out and sometimes, falling ass backwards into things and getting lucky. But so I've said no to pretty much everybody that's approached me for something like that because I'm like, what are you talking about? Mentor what? It doesn't make sense. Like, I'm not a guidebook. But again, and yes, you're right, there is a cultural thing when it comes to saying yes. I just think there's a lot of honesty in saying no, and eventually people will appreciate that. It's not that you're not interesting yourself, it's just the subject is not interesting. You can be an amazing person. You want to go have coffee, we'll go have coffee. But if you want to sit down and talk about something specific and it doesn't...
I'm with you 100%.
It's like sports, right? Are you going to watch every match on the planet, even if you love football or soccer? To me, for most of my life,
football.
Well, it was originally soccer.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was association.
Wait, hold on. So, US was formed after or before the UK.
Sure, but it was association.
The
football.
language of English, it comes from America or it comes from England.
Well, technically, it's Germanic and Italic.
Well, look, if you want to go into semantics, we can talk about.
No,
Latin
but really,
Greek.
it's association football, ASOC, which became ASOC for short, and became soccer. And then when the
thing is, you're so confident with your answer that
you should look it up. You should look it up.
It's football. Right?
I understand the logic of it being football, just like there's.
It came first. It's as simple as that.
But I'm saying you'd find.
I think it's time for the next sport. Last one.
I think this is over.
Last one.
This is the last one. I think the one you've been looking for.
All right. We've had the one. The self-worth is important.
Oh, Beirut, the capital of nightlife innovation.
Yeah. So I've gone to a lot of cities in general. Dubai is a lovely city. Stereo Arcade was an anomaly.
Yes, I agree.
You go to Beirut and you want to have fun and you want to party. Is there a better city on the planet for innovation, creativity, and just having a good time? I don't think there is.
So I will say one thing maybe controversial about Beirut when it comes to nightlife. It has nothing to do with the venues, has nothing to do with the concepts, it has nothing to do with the music at all. I think the most basic concepts I've ever seen are in Beirut. I think the most basic designed places I've seen are in Beirut. It's just the damn people. That's it. You could take the Lebanese and put them anywhere on earth, and it doesn't matter what the place looks like. And I think they just party. They just don't care about anything else in the world. So that's what makes Beirut special. I don't think it's the venues.
But the people that are coming up with the concepts who are successful in, let's say, Dubai or in London, turns out a lot of them are also Lebanese.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
Is that a coincidence?
I mean, my parents still tell me the story. They used to go out to this bar because they both went to the American University, to AUB in Beirut, and during the Civil War. So my dad used to go from his dorms to my mom's dorms under sniper fire. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't go that far for a woman, dude. I don't know what you were thinking about. Okay.
That's crazy.
I love my mom, but like, dude, come on. You're going to get shot in the head to like go make out with the girl? I mean, come on. Anyway, so they'd go to a bar in Hamadeh Street or somewhere around that area, and then the shelling starts getting closer, so they just move 2 bars down. Like, that's the Lebanese mentality. A cinema gets bombed, and then 3 days later they clean it up and they come back to the cinema. So,
mate, 2006, 2006, Beirut was under fire, was under attack. People were clubbing.
Yeah, people moved the party to the mountains.
The most famous nightclub in Beirut is an underground shelter.
Yeah. What was it? A shallow grave, BO18?
Yeah.
It was a shallow grave.
Which was an underground shelter.
Well, yeah. So what?
You know what I mean? So isn't that just as a concept? It's mental.
So, okay, when you look at that level of the nuances of a concept, yes, there are some like pretty substantial concepts. But when I look at just anything really, I think the Lebanese in Lebanon, not the Lebanese necessarily in Dubai, although it's pretty much the same, but Dubai just makes you more proper. You're more wild in Beirut. You do things you would never do here. I mean, everyone's drunk in their cars in Beirut. Everybody. My friends used to pick me up from the airport with like beer cans in the car. Like, what are you guys doing? What's wrong with you? Like, I don't drink and drive when I'm in Lebanon. They make fun of me. Like, what are you worried about?
Yeah.
It's $50, you get out of jail.
Yeah.
So when you have that culture, the culture of like nothing is prohibited. Nothing is prohibited in Lebanon. Nothing is prohibited. Everything is okay. There's a game called Assassin's Creed, and their creed is something along the lines of everything is permitted, nothing is forbidden. That's Lebanon for you. So when you have that level of, when that's the creed, that's the mentality, that's the mantra of people, of course they're going to have a good time because they have no inhibitions. They don't care about what's happening tomorrow. It's in that moment. That's what takes me back to that point I said about being in the moment. So I don't think it's the club owners or the bar owners, even if they have the best concepts you've ever seen in terms of like design, look and feel, brand. I mean, they're great at that stuff. It's the people in that city collectively that make Beirut such an epic.
And the context
of course,
of what
the
they're
context.
going through and what they're going through. And
I was in Beirut in February for the first time in 7 years. I haven't been back in 7 years because I've been traveling everywhere else. And I went to a place called Grand Factory. And one of my very good friends is a DJ, and he's one of the partners. His name is Hadi, but he goes by Van Claude Jandam instead of, anyway. So that's a story for a different time. But, you know, I've never sat in the DJ booth ever because I like to be in the crowd. Like that's my vibe, even if I know all the DJs.
they're your people.
Yeah, they're my people. I mean, Stereo Arcade, I'd say in the DJ booth because I was playing with the lights the first couple of months until we found a lighting guy, Jean-Marie, who came in and took over the lights, which was fun for me also. Also, I was avoiding getting drunk with the rest of you. So I set up in the DJ booth in Grand Factory, and they had a techno night. I mean, I'm not into techno. But techno house, I mean, for me, it's the same. But dude, you just look down at the people, and not a single phone up in the air. Everyone's got hands up in the air. Everyone's having a good time. I hate that music. I will never listen to that music. But in that moment, I'm like, holy crap, this music's amazing. Yeah. And I hadn't even had a drink. Yeah. So that's what it's about for me. It's those people. It's not necessarily the place or the concept or the name, because you almost don't care where you are.
Yeah. Sam, what I've really liked about talking to you, from the moment I've met you to today, but I can imagine you haven't really changed who you are. You haven't really compromised on things from a very young age. So you may not have known exactly what you're going to do with your life, but you've known who you are, and you know what you are going to do and what you're not going to do based on your values, based on what's important to you. And I absolutely love that. And the person that you're seeing on camera and the person who's off camera is the same person. You're a cool guy. I don't know, that word cool has been
I have been known to be cool. Yeah.
But you're a cool guy. And I think if I was at school or university, I want to hang out with you, right? And then you've still managed somehow to maintain that aura into your 40s, even being a dad, even being married, which is amazing. It's not like letting go, but you haven't needed to change that persona to fit the life that you want to lead. And
I think I got stuck in that age also. I mean, I threw my first mini music festival. I was 16 years old. Like who the hell, like you're 16, you're I was video games and basketball in summer. I'm like, let me throw a music festival. Got a bunch of DJs, musicians. Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, so I feel like I'm still that kid.
Yeah. But your insight around knowing your self-worth and your time, for me, is my biggest takeaway from today, and the ability to say no without any compromising, again, who you are. So, mate, it's been great. It's been great talking to you.
It was amazing, man. Thank you.
Loved having you. I know you're going to continue to be super successful. I will come check out 11 Green. You
have to.
Bring back Stereo Arcade, just for me and my wife.
Deal.
Bring it to my house. I don't mind, whatever.
Actually, it'll be great in
It's
here.
a pretty good setup. No, but thank you so much.
Thank you for having
and look
me.
forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
And for those watching, please like, please subscribe, please share. Thank you so much, everybody, and see you soon.